before we jump into the video, we of course have to give a shout out to Jun Chikuma, who actually composed the soundtrack for Bomberman Hero back around 1998. So go check her out on Discogs. She has an active Bandcamp and SoundCloud, and has even released some music in the past few years. And actually, just scrolling back through here, it looks like they did a repress of the Bomberman Hero soundtrack onto vinyl. So go check that out. Show your support to Jun Chikuma. She created this amazing song that we are going to recreate today. So the first thing I want to look at here is the break, which is a sample from the song Do This My Way by Kid and Play from 1988. Now, unironically, Kid and Play sampled the classic Think break from the 1972 song Think by Len Collins. So if you listen to drum and bass, you've heard this break before. This is kind of just like a slightly modified version of it by Kid and Play. It has some extra percussive elements within it. So I'm going to drag the raw break onto the screen here up at the top, and let's just play through it. And we want a clean slice of that break, so it's about 3 bars. And in the beginning, there's that little extra sound on the hit. I don't want that. I want this clean part in the middle. Just that 1 bar break. So I'm going to come in and Bitwig, press 5 to get my slice tool, and I'm just going to slice and delete the beginning and drag this back. And then cut where the 3rd bar starts. And we have this clean loop here, or we should. Let's test it out. So this is a 1 bar break here, and what we need to do is shorten it up so it fits in 1 bar. We can see it's kind of hanging over on the edge. Basically, we need to speed the break up. So I'm going to select the break and set it in repitch mode in Bitwig Studio. I'm going to hold Alt and drag it down so it fits in 1 bar. And that's the break right there. So from here, what I did is sliced it to a drum machine. So we stretched it up. We basically right click, go slice to drum machine. And I just slice this directly at 1/8 notes. So in Bitwig, you can slice at different divisions here. 8 notes, I feel like 8 slices is plenty to work with. I get all the different hits I need. I hit OK, and then it creates a drum machine track where each slice is chopped out. And so that's basically what we did with the drums here. So I'm going to disable that track and go to the track down here where I have everything sliced out. In terms of processing, I just have this break being put in mono, and I am clipping it with standard clip. And this song seemed to have 3 different patterns. One was just the full break here. Then there was another phrase where there's this ghost hit, or this ghost snare at the end. And then there is this little shuffle part at the end as we move into different phrases. Sounds like this. And going into that shuffle, there is a little bit of a change up on this main pattern here. So the last hit is going to be another shuffle going into the shuffle phrase. That's super important to get, otherwise it won't sound right. And here's what it sounds like if you didn't have that. Right? Doesn't roll nicely, so you got to be sure to get that placement right leading in to the next bar. The next thing the song has is this ride cymbal that's playing on top of the break, and you can hear it right here. I have a big low cut on that. I don't want any of the low frequencies in there. Put it in mono, panned it to the right, and then send it through a little bit of a reverb, stack it up with the drums. And that's basically the drum pattern that repeats throughout the entire song. Now let's look at the bass here next. This is actually just a sine wave bass, so I'm using the Akai S950 test tone sound, which is basically just a sine wave. I have that put in a sampler, put in mono, and then I have a little bit of glide and legato on that puppy, and the bass line sounds like this. All right, so the different sounds in the track, as I mentioned before, these aren't perfect. I didn't get everything right. I know for certain the MIDI is there, 99% there. The sounds I was struggling with a little, but I think this is where you can kind of take some creative liberties. So there are really 4 different key sounds within here, and they're all basically just lead sounds. And there's this first one here where I decided to just use a guitar from the Korg Triton. This is the jazz guitar patch. And I have a little bit of a velocity curve on here just to keep the velocity down so it's not as harsh. Put into mono through a big delay. And here's the MIDI down here. Sounds like this. And then we go into the next phrase here with a different sound. In this, I'm using pigments here, and I'm just using this frequency mod waveform within pigments. And I don't think I did too much in here other than adding a little glide time on that note. Everything else is pretty much stock, so you would just use this waveform here, add some glide time to the note, and this is basically the same MIDI as that first phrase, just a different sound. So there was a tweet somewhere where somebody asked what synth was used, and it sounds like a Moog was actually used for this. So really, I think some type of raw synthesis waveform is probably what was used for a lot of these sounds. But again, we could take artistic liberty and put our own spin on this. So the next 2 sounds here come in during the break. So when those pads come in, and the first thing we have is this other one where I decided to use a guitar sound. This is the arpeggio guitar from the Korg Triton, put into mono through a bit of a delay, and it sounds like this. And then on the second part of that break, this other high-pitched sine sound comes in. And so I used the Korg Triton for this sound. I probably could have used that Pigments sound as well. But this is the smooth sine lead, which is just 2 sine waveforms in the Korg Triton with a little bit of portamento on it. In mono, big EQ to just, it's a high frequency sound. I don't want the low end stuff. And then through a delay. Now, something else that is very subtle in this song that you can't really hear are some piano chords. And these are playing during that main drop, not in the break sections. And so for this, it just sounds like an EP piano, could be like an FM piano. So I use this Clav 3 patch from the Korg Triton. Have that in mono, a little bit of panning into a reverb, and it sounds like... Nice little chord progression there. And then during the break, there are these pads that come in, just very typical atmospheric pads. So I went into the Korg Triton, grabbed this phase string program, put it in mono, painted a little bit of a low cut on there and a little bit of a filter to keep a bunch of the high end out. And then this sound definitely sounds like it's going through either a phaser or a flanger effect. So we have this phaser plus effect on here, and the pads sound like this. that is it, folks. So definitely took some artistic liberties here. These sounds aren't perfect, but what I think's cool about this is you know how the song was constructed now, so you could come in, you know, grab the MIDI here and then put your own spin on it. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, if you want this Bitwig Studio project file that you're looking at right now, go check out my Patreon where you can get this project file if you're a supporter, along with project files for a lot of the other songs I've done and many more going forward. Appreciate the support, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.